Hey guys, and welcome to another video. So we are back to Nvidia's Geforce Now. This is an article out from The Verge today, the 2nd, and we're getting into basically another game. One publisher has left Geforce Now, making it the third publisher to pull its games, albeit small. But it's certainly heating up the conversation around Geforce Now and streaming services and just all kinds of things about the developers of games having control over their content, consumer friendly, not consumer friendly, all this kind of stuff. So I really want to go over this. I'm definitely going to be throwing my opinions out there along the way, and feel free to hit that comment section below and do the same. After we get through this, and I'll go as quickly as I can, we will check out some comments down at the end. This is definitely excuse me, the Geforce Now has definitely been causing a lot of conversation about cloud gaming ever since it came out of beta a few weeks ago. So there's always seems like there's something going on in the news with it. Maybe ultimately that'll wind up being a good thing. We'll see. So let's get into it here with Nvidia's Geforce Now is becoming an important test for the future of cloud gaming. The cloud gaming service is controversial among developers, and here is why. Nvidia's Geforce Now took yet another hit this weekend with a new publisher pulling its software from the cloud gaming service. That's because Geforce Now, unlike competing services like Google Stadia, let anyone who purchases a digital game on Valve's Steam Marketplace reinstall it on a virtual machine and play it using its cloud platform. And that's not just Steam. We still have Uplay on there and Epic Game Store. So we do have those three. That doesn't sit well with some game publishers and developers, including Raphael van Leerup, the game director and writer of indie hit The Long Dark from the company Hinterland Studio. Leerup pulled his game over the weekend, displeased that it was included in the paid version of Geforce Now without his explicit permission. We've seen this before with Activision, Blizzard, and Bethesda pulling their games from Geforce Now, presumably for similar reasons, that money most likely. I say presumably because neither of those publishers explicitly stated why they did so, and just about what Geforce Now they found dissatisfying. In Activision Blizzard's case, there was a licensing dispute we were aware of, and there's the matter of Nvidia not reacquiring permission to use its titles once it began charging $5 a month for the public trial of Geforce Now last month. So the publishers have given vague statements, leading many to surmise that it may be due to the lack of revenue split or the fact that big game publishers would rather charge customers a second time for a separate license to play a game on cloud gaming service, regardless of how it is structured, which really isn't fair, honestly. Something like Stadia and Geforce Now, they are not comparable. Stadia is a platform in which to play your game. Geforce Now is a service allowing you to access your platforms for gaming in the cloud. Essentially with Geforce Now, you're renting a PC in the cloud. You don't even need to say cloud. You're renting a PC. You are signing into your account on Steam, Uplay, Epic Games, and then you are installing that game through your launcher that you're signed into, and then you're playing that game. Yes, Nvidia has to stream the controls, the video, and the audio in order for you to be able to play it, but you are not circumventing anywhere. You are not shortcutting. You're not doing anything that you wouldn't do other than that little bit of streaming so you can play that you wouldn't do on multiple PCs in your house, or as I've explained in past videos, if you're at a friend's house, you log on his PC, you go on Battle.net or Uplay or whatever the case is, you log into your account, you download a game and you play it. They have no problem with that. As soon as Nvidia is making money off of it, though, they have a problem with it. Now, I know you can comment all you want about licensing and this and that, and they control where you play. I get that. They do control. When we buy digital, when we buy a game, they control where we can play it, all kinds of stuff like that. I get it, and there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. But these kind of things that are going on, and we'll talk about it more as we go, they're just anti-consumer, and no matter how they spin it, you're going to have a lot of trouble explaining to me why, if you're doing all those things, signing into this proper Steam launcher, installing the game after you've signed into your Steam launcher, and then playing it, whether that PC is a virtual PC somewhere or a real PC at your friend's house or across the world or in your living room, it really shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't make a difference. Anyway, let's continue on here. Stadia, for instance, charges customers for games even though you own them on Steam already. Yeah, because they are a platform. They're just like a console. You're buying the games there, you're playing the games there, your save is there, your player base is there, that's it. And a lot of the big publishers have signed up under those terms, but again, they are assumptions. The developers haven't spoken at length about the disputes, and Nvidia has politely obliged when it comes to removing games because its service appears to depend on goodwill of participating developers. But Van Lierop, on the other hand, is the self-publishing indie developer to jump publicly into the Geforce Now controversy, and he stated plainly what his issues are. Quote, "Sorry to those who are disappointed you can no longer play The Long Dark on Geforce Now. Nvidia didn't ask for our permission to put the game on the platform. It's not a platform, it's a service, so we asked them to remove it." He wrote on Twitter over the weekend, "Please take your complaints to them, not us. Devs should control where their games exist." Excuse me. I don't know. To me, that's just an asshole comment. Take your complaints to Nvidia. I get maybe they didn't. According to Nvidia, they got okays from everybody before they came out of beta that it was going to be fine, and then they came out of beta and these things started happening. Did they really get permission from everybody or not? Who knows? Were there devs that didn't get notified? Who knows? When the money started to roll in for Nvidia at that $5 a month, it seems like when everybody all of a sudden started to have a problem with it. Now, devs being able to control where their games exist, correct. But you don't control where they're played. At least not under that circumstance. With something like Stadia, yeah, it's a platform. You have a whole licensing thing. It's the same as a console, basically, except for the different rights involved in streaming the game. As I've explained before, I totally understand the caveat where Geforce Now is technically streaming the video, audio, and controls of your game. So does Steam. Steam's had Steam Link that can link to my TV, my phone, whatever. I can even use touch controls. I can play those games. I can play my Steam library on my phone already before Geforce Now even came out. No complaints from any developers then because what? You were still playing your game on Steam. You may be streaming it to yourself. You're your own cloud in your house, but it's essentially the same thing. You were streaming all of your Steam library to you. So now all of a sudden, because the person doing that or the company doing that for you is Nvidia and they're starting to make money off of it, it becomes a problem. So I understand a lot of the licensing. I understand the gaming and the cloud gaming and the streaming and how all that's shaken out and how everybody wants a little piece of the pie and the money and all of that. But in the end, as a consumer and as a gamer, if I buy my game on Steam, for example, and I want to play my game on my Steam account, I should be able to do that from any PC, whether it be streamed to me or not. I've been streaming Steam to my phone and TV for well over a year. No dev cared about that when I was my own cloud because there was no money in the pot. I'm sorry, but if I buy the game and it's on Steam, Uplay, or Epic Games, or wherever Geforce Now supports, if I buy a game and I can play it through that launcher, all Geforce Now is doing is giving you a PC to use. You're signing into the proper launcher already as if you were on any other PC. You're downloading that game, albeit an instant download. You're still installing it on that launcher and you're playing it. So to me, as a consumer, it just still sounds greedy. Later on, he wrote, "Today's world is getting complex for devs with lots of platform changes and shifts to streaming, so devs have to be able to plan a strategy for how their games will appear and where as a means of running a business. All the platforms acknowledge this." He said Hinterland would reconsider putting The Long Dark on Geforce Now in the future, but right now he doesn't like the current situation. Okay, there again, I just don't get that. More players playing your game. I'm going to say it over and over again. You want more players playing your game. This argument confused many onlookers, especially those who currently use or are considering using Geforce Now. Why would a game developer get to dictate the hardware its games are played on? And why would Nvidia need permission to make games a customer has already purchased on Steam available on a virtual machine running Steam? These are not dumb questions. In fact, the answers are critical to understanding the ongoing controversy with GeForce Now and how important it will be for the future of cloud gaming. And I do think a lot's being learned here for the future of cloud gaming since GeForce Now has come out of beta. And we're kind of starting to see how things shake out. I think the developers that will do the best are the ones who aren't greedy, the ones who do keep their games there and allow the players to play more. If Ubisoft sticks with it, and Epic Games, and they don't pull, and they keep doing, even with Uplay, even if you don't buy a game and you're paying the $15 a month for Uplay Plus, any of those games in Uplay Plus that are supported on GeForce Now, you can play also. And that to me just seems extremely fair. Effectively, there are two sides to the controversy, one in favor of the game maker and one in favor of the customer. And both have merits. For game developers and publishers, a digital game is not the same as a physical good you can do what you want with, including resell it. A digital game is a license to use a virtual good in a way stipulated by the licensing agreement, both from the maker of the game and from the marketplace that sells it. In this case, Steam. This, of course, is ignoring the fact that physical games, you can't burn them and resell them and all that kind of stuff. That's old school. A license to play a game does not mean another company can redistribute it, even if you personally bought the license. That's what's happening with GeForce Now, and that's important to understand. Nvidia isn't just renting you a virtual machine, it's renting you a virtual machine and then redistributing a video game sold by Steam under agreements that do not include Nvidia, at least not yet. It is not just a hardware rental service, and pretending it is one is disingenuous. See, I kind of disagree with this because they are basically just renting you a PC. They are not redistributing a game. I still don't get this. They are not redistributing a game. Now, maybe there's something in the process legally that technically it's redistributing, but technically it's not. If you download a launcher like Steam onto a PC, whether it's in the cloud or at home, doesn't matter. If you download Steam on there, then you log on to Steam with your account and you look at your game library, pick what you want to play, install that, and play it. How did Nvidia redistribute that game to me? Any differently than I would redistribute it to myself on any computer anywhere in the world? Not a lot of difference. I'm sorry, there just isn't. Nvidia is effectively injecting itself into the sale and distribution of a piece of software. No, they aren't. We've seen this time and again with companies that have hoped to similarly disrupt distribution, from failed over-the-air broadcast TV streamer Arrow to theater subscription plan MoviePass. It rarely works because the companies either face steep fees out of the fear of getting sued, their business plan is unstable or unsustainable, or because they go ahead without permission and get litigated into the ground. Strong-arming a new distribution model into reality is expensive and adversarial, and only a few companies like Apple with iTunes can successfully say they pulled it off. Okay. So even if it doesn't seem Nvidia is doing something similar here, legally it is. This is precisely why Steam runs its PC Cafe program, a bulk licensing service, so gaming cafes can acquire the rights to host software that its customers may have already paid for. This is also why many developers choose to use their own PC launchers. Doing so affords them freedom to control how the game is distributed even more tightly. That's important for things like piracy, copyright infringement, and cheating, but also for protecting intellectual property from being redistributed in ways the company doesn't like. Yeah, but if through the redistribution, they can't really do anything different. If you still have to use the launcher, log into the launcher, install the game, and then play the game, they're not really doing anything much different. I don't understand the whole redistribution and they're reselling you it and we need that money. Whatever. One good example of a downside of GeForce Now is mobile ports. What developer would put resources toward developing a competent mobile port of their game with hopes to resell it to a new audience to recoup investment on the port to make some profit? If GeForce Now is available on mobile, and it is on Android, and completely obviates the need to pay for the mobile version, a service like GeForce Now complicates that for developers, and as Alira points out, the most customer-friendly thing you can do as a dev is run a sustainable business so that you can support your game and your customers into the future. He goes on to say, controlling your own content is key to that. No to both of those statements, in my opinion. That is just kind of a strong arm statement. It's anti-consumer. They're saying the most customer-friendly thing you can do as a dev is run a sustainable business, even if that means doing things that are not customer-friendly. No, I don't think so. And so what if you can't make money off of a port? You don't need to. You support the streaming service and you market it and you push to have more people buy your game. I've talked about this in previous videos. Why do you need a port of a game if you can get more people to buy the game you've already invested so much money in developing? There are people that will go out and buy things like Call of Duty or like The Long Dark or whatever that will never have a PC, that maybe are only going to play it on their phone, but they just went out and spent 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 bucks on your game to play it that way. That's way better than investing money on a port and then selling that. It just makes more sense to me. It all just sounds greedy no matter how you spin it. Another big issue is that Geforce Now complicates exclusivity agreements. How can you ensure an exclusivity agreement on, say, console or through Epic Game Store if the game can be easily reproduced through Geforce Now on any screen? Cloud gaming with absolutely no restrictions would start dictating an important aspect of developers' financial future. So, if you have an exclusive agreement with someone like Epic Game Store or Steam or whatever, it's still an exclusive agreement even on GeForce Now. You're not doing anything different. You're not bypassing the launcher. You're not being able to say buy a game on Epic and then play it on Steam where you're not getting that exclusive agreement or certain pre-order or whatever the case may be. It's just not working that way. So there again, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But hey, I could be way off. Well, I'm sure I'll find out as people comment on this video. Nvidia doesn't dispute its role here. It published a blog post last month tackling the issues head on, writing, as we approach a paid service, some developers may choose to remove their games before the trial period ends. Ultimately, they maintain control over their content and decide whether the game you purchase includes streaming on GeForce Now. Nvidia said it expects the removals to be far and few in between, but acknowledges that developers have the right to choose whether to participate or not. Okay, so let's get into the counter argument part of the article here before we wrap this up. The argument... So there's another counter argument from the consumer perspective, which is where I'm coming from all the time. Even as running businesses in real life, you should still be coming from the consumer perspective. Why would any company take issue with GeForce Now? What developer wouldn't want to support this? It seems like a no-brainer, right? If the customers already purchased the game, let them play it wherever they want. And if they don't like it, well, Nvidia shouldn't need their permission anyway. I don't really necessarily say they don't need their permission, but it's definitely getting blown out of proportion. As one commenter on Twitter put it, I would ask, why should a studio be allowed to dictate where I am allowed to install and play a game I have purchased? Granted, with the digital rights, this kind of thing, they can dictate a lot, but it sure seems like a gray area to me that we're involved in here with GeForce Now. This argument is also not as complicated as the other side. It is undoubtedly much more consumer friendly to let someone play a game they've already purchased on whatever screen they choose. In an ideal world, Nvidia wouldn't need permission and developers wouldn't take issue with it in the first place. Cloud gaming would just be a new way to enjoy the games we've already paid for. Yeah, that would be nice. And it wouldn't just be us enjoying the games we've already paid for. You will sell more copies. You will always sell more copies. If you can play that game in more places and people need less powerful hardware to play it, they'll buy more copies of your game. It just makes sense. But this ideal world also stipulates that things like piracy don't exist, or that companies never take advantage of one another, or to drive their competitors out of big business. There's also a world that ignores how complicated and potentially fraught gaming distribution is about to get when cloud gaming and subscription services combine, like xCloud, into what very well may be the future of how all video games are played, regardless of the hardware they run on. So xCloud, they're working hard. They're doing a similar thing. They're getting permission for everything that they're going to be putting on there. They have a little bit of a head start because with Game Pass, they have a similar rights type thing they have to do to have those games on there. So they've already kind of got a start. But there again, Xbox and Microsoft, that's more of a platform like Stadia and not just a service. So it's kind of a different game there. In this world, if developers don't keep tight control over their intellectual property and how it is just distributed, They will lose the ability to control their destiny. That's scary for creators whose financial well-being is determined by how many copies they sell. You will sell more copies by allowing people to play it anywhere. It's unfair to assume that opening the floodgates for third-party companies to do whatever they want with your software would magically work out well for all parties involved. It is well within LaRoupe's right not to be a guinea pig in that experiment. Yeah, if you choose to. And just from his quotes and Twitter and whatnot, he's really coming from an anti-consumer standpoint to begin with. And I just don't really like how he worded, how he was saying what he was saying there. That's not to say that this is the cloud gaming future we want, because it's not. Having to buy games twice would be a shame. Yeah, you're going to sell less copies of your game to begin with. Having to rely on subscription services to be as well-funded and robust as Xbox Game Pass, which is financed by one of the world's most successful software companies, to ensure developers can get paid in the future isn't a great situation either. A world where a developer goes out of business because they can only sell a limited number of copies on Steam due to cloud gaming making it available everywhere else for free is not what everyone should want. What? Let me read that again. A world where a developer goes out of business because they can only sell a limited number of copies on Steam due to cloud gaming making it available everywhere else for free is not what anyone should want. Why would it be free anywhere? If you want to play a game on Geforce Now, you have to buy it. And if your games are available on Geforce Now, and a person is sitting there like, oh, I don't have a computer, I don't have anything, I wish I could go play Duty, I wish I could go play Overwatch, I wish I could play whatever. Oh man, Geforce Now? What, on my phone, on my tablet, on my laptop that's like half broken and won't play a game? Oh, let me go buy Call of Duty for $60 and I can play it. It only makes sense. You're not going to go out, you're not going to sell less copies. What do you mean limited copies on Steam? Anyway, cloud gaming promises to make any piece of gaming software available at all times on any screen, and that remains a very exciting prospect. But it has a lot of economic complexity, and the only way to get it ironed out is through negotiation by consumers, platform providers, understanding. Right now, Nvidia's asked for forgiveness but not permission strategy is irking some developers, and for good reason. Until this is no longer an experiment, permission should be required. Okay, so yeah, Geforce Now continuing to be a source of talk. I mean, it is one of the, besides Stadia, which really has not done well, it's one of the larger cloud services to come out. There's been a ton of talk about this since it came out. We've had Activision Blizzard pull games. We've had Bethesda pull their games. We've had this Long Dark game get pulled. And honestly, not really liking the way the developer is saying what he's saying here. And then statements, like selling a limited number of copies on Steam because of cloud gaming. No, you will sell more copies. I'm sorry, but that's just, you just will. It makes absolute sense. So yeah, anyway, the way I'm kind of watching it, because you're kind of going to see like what companies are wanting more money. Because to me, it's not just a permission thing. These companies that are pulling, like Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, and this guy from Hinterland, it sounds like they just want money. It sounds like they want an agreement for more money from Nvidia, and I don't agree with that. So let's take a quick look here at a couple of the top comments. We got here, Yang Gang. I don't know why the game devs want me to buy a $1,500 PC just to play their games. That's maddening. I'm supporting Nvidia and will play whatever it lets me play. Next stat, I don't think that's quite fair. They don't want you to buy a $1,500 PC. They don't receive any money from that. They made a game that can be played at various performance levels by various different PCs from virtually any manufacturer, only some of which cost that much and more. What they actually want is to make sure the game is being distributed in a way they control. NVIDIA can ask the dev for permission, and they can grant it. It's not just distributed in a way they control, because like we said, like we were already saying, if you're playing on Steam on your account and you've installed the game, they've already controlled that. Whether I'm doing that on a virtual PC, I could create a server myself if I wanted to. They can't stop me, and stream it to myself anywhere I want, just like I do at home. I stream all kinds of stuff. I stream my PC all the time. So it's not really just about that. It's not just about the control. It's about wanting more money even though they shouldn't, because GeForce is just offering you another ability to sign into an account you already have, where you've already legally purchased a game, where you already legally play that game on any PC that you want. But as soon as a big company like Nvidia is making that easier for you, they want some. They're telling you what you should buy or not buy, though. It's effectively saying you can't rent that computer for $10 a month from Nvidia. We want you to buy an equivalently powered one for $1,500. If I am paying to run that game on a computer, it shouldn't matter if it's my computer, my roommate's computer, or if I'm renting a computer from Nvidia for a few hours. It's still a computer if I have bought to own, or if I am just renting, which on the basic argument, yes. Of course, we've said, we know there's caveats to the streaming, certain aspects and whatnot, but they are not redistributing the game, not necessarily. You're not buying it again, and they're not providing you with anything that you can't get if you have your own PC anyway. I still think it all just comes down to that money. Right? And they're not telling you, the consumer, to pony up, per se. They're telling Nvidia to come to the negotiating table with something to offer. Perhaps a split of the $5 monthly subscription fee. Maybe a licensing fee, because Nvidia is installing the game on hardware it owns, not hardware you own, regardless of the rental analogy. It's the same reason you can't loan digital copies of games to all your friends. It would have been something that equates to the value the developer sees in licensing their IP in that way. Developers are not incentivized to give stuff away for free, and I don't see why cloud gaming is going to be any different, especially with the economic. Yeah, they just, no matter what happens, they want to control a piece. So anyway, guys, thanks for coming to check out the video. I know it went on a little long. I don't know if you can tell, I've got a bit of a cold, so I kind of struggled through some of that and had some mistakes here and there, but we got through it. And yeah, GeForce Now just keeps hitting the news. It's definitely the experiment, we'll call it the experiment of cloud gaming so far in 2020, but I absolutely love Nvidia's GeForce Now. Hopefully any games that have left come back, and hopefully we don't see too many more leaving, and everybody can kind of figure out what to do with cloud gaming. So anyway, thanks again for coming to check out the video. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and leave your comment below letting me know what you think. Thanks a lot, have a good one, and I'll see you next time.